An original story, written by Wicked Serenity. Romance. The blood on the doorframe was mine, but the apology that followed was his. I am Luna to the most beloved alpha our pack has ever known. To them he is mercy in human form. Wise, gentle, the kind of leader who remembers every name, every grief, every child's birthday. They watch him settle disputes with patience, feed widows from his own table, carry the injured on his back through winter storms. They watch him love me in public with a tenderness that makes unmated wolves weep with envy. They do not watch what happens when the door closes. They do not see how a man who rules with kindness can become a tyrant in his own home. How the same hands that bless children can find my throat with the precision of a predator who has practiced this kill 1,000 times. They do not ask why their graceful Luna has stopped speaking at council meetings, why I've learned to make myself small in a role that should make me powerful. Every full moon, my husband becomes a wolf, and every full moon the pack's pity flows toward him, the cursed alpha who cannot control the beast within, who carries this burden with such dignified suffering. They do not pity me. They remind me how lucky I am, how rare it is to have an alpha who stays, who fights his nature, who loves his Luna enough to warn her when the moon grows full and luminous. The elders say his curse is proof of his strength, that a weaker man would have abandoned his duty, but he endures. They say my patience honors the pack. They do not say what I've begun to suspect in the darkest hours before dawn, when his human hands grip my wrists with the same brutality as his wolfen claws. What if the monster was never the curse? What if the moon only gave him permission to stop pretending? Tonight the sky is clear. The lunar calendar on our bedroom wall is marked in red ink, 3 days until the transformation. He's already begun the ritual of apology, the careful tenderness that makes me doubt my own memories. He brings me tea before the pack awakens. He braids my hair with gentle fingers. He tells me he's afraid of what he might do, and I tell him I forgive him for violence he hasn't yet committed. The pack sees devotion. I see rehearsal. But tonight, something is different. Tonight I heard howling from the deep forest, wild and mournful, and utterly, devastatingly controlled. Another wolf, one who does not hunt. And for the first time in 3 years of being Luna to a man the pack would die for, I've begun to wonder, if the curse reveals what already lives inside a man, what has mine been hiding behind his crown? Chapter 1. The Night of the Howling. The door didn't break all at once. It splintered in stages. 3 strikes, 4, each one louder than my heartbeat, each one accompanied by a sound that lived somewhere between growl and word. I pressed myself against the far wall of our bedroom, bare feet cold against wood, and counted the cracks spreading through the oak like veins of lightning. 1, 2, 3. He'd installed that door himself last spring. Reinforced it. Called it protection. I understood now what he'd been protecting. The frame gave way with a sound like bones snapping, and then he was there. Too large for the doorway, too wrong for the shape of him. Moonlight painted him in silver and shadow, fur the color of smoke, eyes that held my reflection, claws that had once been the hands that placed a crown of winter flowers on my head the day the pack named me Luna. Please. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. It's me. You know me. The wolf's lips pulled back from teeth, designed for tearing. But it was the human recognition in those eyes that terrified me most, the way he saw me, knew me, and lunged anyway. I didn't remember moving, didn't remember grabbing the silver letter opener from the desk, a gift from the pack elders, engraved with our joined names. Didn't remember the moment it pierced fur and found flesh. I only remembered the sound he made. Half wolf, half man. All rage. His claws caught my shoulder, my ribs, the soft flesh of my upper arm. Pain arrived in waves, delayed and bright. I tasted copper. The room tilted. My knees found the floor. and then his weight was on me, pressing down, down, until I couldn't tell if I was breathing or drowning. "You made me do this." The words came out wet, malformed by a jaw not meant for human speech, but I heard them clearly. I always heard them clearly. Then darkness, soft and absolute. I woke to birdsong. Morning light filtered through curtains I didn't remember closing. The bedroom door stood, intact on its hinges. No cracks, no splintered wood, no evidence of violence except the careful way I had to breathe around the pain in my ribs. And him. He sat in the chair beside our bed, human again, beautiful in the breaking dawn. His head rested in his hands. His shoulders shook with the particular rhythm of a man who'd been crying for hours. "I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "God, I'm so sorry." I wanted to speak, wanted to scream, wanted to ask why he'd replaced the door in the 3 hours between wolf and man, why he always had new doors ready, why this home had begun to feel like a place designed for systematic destruction and seamless repair. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "I know." He looked up. His eyes, brown now, human, devastated, found mine. "Did I hurt you?" The question sat between us like a third presence. We both knew the answer. The bandages on my shoulder, my ribs, my arm told the story. His memory pretended not to hold. "It wasn't you," I said, and watched, relief break across his face like dawn. "It was the curse." He crossed to me then, careful, reverent, pressed his forehead to mine. His tears wet my cheeks. "I don't deserve you." My lips moved on instinct, shaped words the pack had taught me, words that had become liturgy. "The curse is not your fault." I tried to fight it. His hands, human hands, gentle hands, cupped my face. All night I tried. But the moon, I know. If you hadn't startled me. Something cold bloomed in my chest. "What?" "When you grabbed the letter opener." His thumb traced my cheekbone. The silver. It triggered the wolf's defense. If you'd just stayed still, stayed quiet, like I told you. The cold spread. "You told me to lock the door." "And you did." He smiled, sad and soft. "But then you fought back, love. You know that makes it worse." I opened my mouth, closed it. The pain in my ribs pulsed with each breath. "Next time," he whispered, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Trust me. Trust that I'll come back to you. Can you do that?" I should have said no. Should have asked why there would be a next time. Why 3 years of full moons had taught him nothing about control. Why the alpha who governed our pack with legendary restraint became a mindless beast only within these walls. Instead, I heard myself say, "Yes. That's my Luna." He pulled back and his smile could have melted winter. "Rest now. I need to meet with the council. There's a border dispute that needs settling, but I'll bring you breakfast first. What do you want?" "Anything. Just tea. Tea." He repeated it like soft rhythmon. "I'll make it perfect. I promise." He left. His footsteps descended the stairs with the steady gait of a man uninjured, unburdened. Through the window, I watched the pack begin to wake. Wolves emerging from homes, children running toward the communal hall, everyone moving through morning routines that didn't include checking their alphas for blood beneath their fingernails. I pulled myself, upright, biting back the gasp that wanted to escape. The mirror across the room showed me what I already knew. Bruises blooming purple-black across pale skin, claw marks wrapped in clean white gauze. A face that had learned to arrange itself into serenity, even while the body beneath screamed. The face of a Luna. I looked perfect. Downstairs I heard my husband humming as he prepared tea. A song the pack loved. A song about devotion. And there, barely audible beneath it, the sound of a new door being fitted into the bedroom frame, ready for next month's breaking. Chapter 2. The Man They Admire. By noon, the bruises had been carefully hidden. I wore a high-necked dress in deep blue, the color the pack associated with Luna wisdom, and long sleeves despite the summer heat. The bandages beneath itched, but I'd learned not to scratch. Movement drew attention. Stillness made me invisible. Thane brought the tea himself, carrying the tray up the stairs with the careful balance of a man who'd done this many times before. He set it on the bedside table, poured with steady hands, added honey the way I liked. "Perfect temperature," he said softly. I waited exactly 4 minutes. "Thank you." He sat on the bed's edge, close, but not touching. "How are you feeling?" "Better." "The pain?" "Manageable." He nodded, satisfied. "Good, that's good." His hand hovered near mine, then withdrew. "I have to go soon. The Riverside family, their boundary dispute. It's getting heated." "I remember. They specifically asked for me." A slight smile. "Said they trust my judgment more than anyone's." "They're right to." The smile widened. "You always know what to say." He stood, adjusted his shirt, simple linen, no alpha regalia, because Thane believed leadership was action, not decoration. "Will you come to the evening gathering? The pack has been asking about you." My stomach tightened. "I'm not sure You don't have to." He said it quickly, gently. "Rest is important. I just know how much they love seeing us together." Us. The word carried weight. The Alpha and his Luna, the perfect pair, the love story the unmated wolves dreamed about. "I'll try," I said. "That's all I ask." He leaned down, pressed a kiss to the top of my head, careful to avoid the tender spot where my skull had met the floor. "I love you." "I love you, too." He left smelling of pine and morning air, looking like every good thing the world had to offer. I waited until his footsteps faded before I let myself breathe fully. The gathering began at sundown. I arrived late, slipping into the communal hall through the side entrance while Thane stood at the center of the room, mediating the Riverside dispute with the patience of a saint. Both families sat before him, angry, gesturing, interrupting, while he listened with perfect attention. "Jacob!" His voice cut through the chaos without rising in volume. "You're upset, I understand. But let Daniel finish." Jacob Riverside, a wolf twice. Thane's sighs, immediately quieted. I watched from the shadows as my husband worked. He asked questions that made people think. He acknowledged emotions before addressing facts. When old Daniel Riverside's voice shook with frustration, Thane crossed the space between them and gripped the elderly wolf's shoulder with genuine warmth. "You've lived on that land for 40 years, Thane said. "That matters. Your history matters." Daniel's eyes shone. "You understand." "I'm trying to." Thane glanced at Jacob. "And I understand why you're worried about your children having space to build. Both truths can exist." It took him 20 minutes to craft a solution that left both families grateful. They clasped his hands, called him fair, called him wise. Young Jacob's mate actually cried, with relief. "Our Alpha," she whispered, loud enough for the room to hear. "We're so blessed." The gathered pack murmured agreement. Children who'd been playing in the corners ran to Thane, and he crouched to their level, listened to their excited stories about catching fireflies, admired the jar of blinking lights they'd collected. "Beautiful," he told them. "But remember, we'll let them go before bed," the smallest girl announced proudly. "That's right." He tapped her nose gently. "Even beautiful things need freedom." The irony nearly made me laugh. Then his eyes found me across the room, and his whole face transformed. "There she is." Every head turned. I felt the weight of their attention like physical pressure. Forced my lips into a smile, walked forward despite the scream of pain in my ribs. Thane met me halfway, took my hand with perfect tenderness. "How are you feeling, love?" "Much better." She was resting, he told the pack, his concern evident. I insisted. "Our Luna works too hard." Heads nodded. Someone said I looked pale. Someone else offered herbal tea for strength. Azalea Cassian, an elder she-wolf with silver in her hair, approached with motherly warmth. "We worry about you, dear." You push yourself. I'm fine. Truly. She is. Thane's arm slid around my waist, careful to avoid the bandaged ribs beneath my dress. But stubborn. She wanted to come tonight even though I told her to rest. Gentle laughter rippled through the room. The pack saw devotion, saw a husband who cared, saw me as the difficult one, the stubborn Luna who didn't know her own limits. You take such good care of her, Azalea said to Thane. I try. He looked down at me, and the love in his eyes could have convinced anyone. Could have convinced me, if I didn't know what those eyes looked like reflecting moonlight. She makes it easy. The gathering continued around us. Thane never left my side, never stopped touching me, my hand, my waist, my hair. Each gesture gentle, each gesture claiming. To the pack, we were inseparable. To me, we were fused. Young Veda Hollis, barely 18 and newly presented to the pack, approached with shy admiration. Luna, can I ask you something? Of course. She glanced at Thane, then back to me. How did you know? That he was your mate? The question hung in the air. Around us, other unmated wolves leaned closer, hungry for the story. Thane squeezed my hand, waited for me to speak. I thought about the first time I'd met him, the kindness that had felt like sunlight, the way he'd listened to my dreams about strengthening pack bonds, about creating safe spaces for wolves who didn't fit traditional roles, the way he'd made me feel seen. I thought about the first full moon after our mating ceremony, the locked door, the apology that came with dawn. He made me feel like I mattered, I said, and it wasn't a lie. Veda sighed. That's beautiful. Our Luna is a romantic, Thane said, and the pack chuckled fondly. The evening wore on. Thane settled 2 more disputes, praised the hunters for a successful deer harvest, reminded everyone about the upcoming midsummer celebration. He was tireless, flawless. Every decision balanced strength with compassion. When a widow mentioned struggling with her roof repair, he immediately organized a work party. When a young wolf expressed anxiety about his first shift, Thane spent 15 minutes offering encouragement that left the boy glowing with confidence. And through it all, he kept me close, checked on me, asked if I needed to sit, to rest, to leave. The pack saw attentiveness. I felt surveillance. We walked home under stars, his hand warm in mine. You were perfect tonight, he said. So were you. The pack loves you, he smiled. Did you see how Veda looked at you? Like you hung the moon? She's sweet. She reminds me of you. When we first met. He stopped walking, turned to face me. Do you remember? How nervous you were? I remember. I knew immediately. His thumb traced circles on my palm. That you were mine. That I'd do anything to keep you. The words should have sounded romantic. 3 years ago they would have. Now they sounded like exactly what they were. A promise and a threat. I'm tired, I said quietly. Of course. Let's get you home. He resumed walking, and I followed, because that's what Lunas did. Followed their alphas home. Smiled through pain. Embodied grace. We passed other pack members on the way. They waved, called out good night, told Thane how lucky I was. He agreed with them every time. When we reached our home, larger than most, befitting an alpha, isolated enough that screams wouldn't carry, he unlocked the door and gestured me inside with courtly gentleness. Straight to bed for you, he said. You need rest. Yes. I'll be up soon, just need to review some council notes. I climbed the stairs, each step a negotiation with pain. The bedroom door, new wood, perfect hinges, closed behind me with a sound like a cell locking. Through the window, the moon hung thin and waning in the sky. 26 days until it would be full again. 26 days of kindness, tenderness. The man, the pack, adored. 26 days, until he had permission to stop pretending. I touched the bandages hidden beneath my dress and wondered how many more full moons my body could survive. Downstairs, I heard Thane humming that song about devotion. The pack's beloved alpha, reviewing notes, caring for his people. And I, his Luna, bleeding quietly in the dark. Chapter 3. How It All Started. I met Thane Thorne on the worst day of my life. My father had just died. A hunting accident, they called it, though everyone knew he'd grown slow with age, that his wolf had stopped listening to his commands. The pack had gathered for the funeral rites, their howls carrying grief into a gray autumn sky. I stood alone at the edge of the ceremony, unmated, and suddenly without family, wondering what place I'd hold now that the wolf who'd vouched for me was gone. Then Thane appeared beside me. "You're shaking," he said quietly. I was. I hadn't noticed. He shrugged off his jacket, worn leather warm from his body, and draped it around my shoulders without asking permission. It smelled like cedar and wood smoke. "I'm sorry about your father," he continued. "He was a good man." "You didn't know him." The words came out sharper than intended. "No," Thane admitted. "But I know you're standing here alone, and that's wrong." I looked at him then. Really looked. He was younger than I'd expected for someone who carried himself with such quiet authority. Maybe 25 to my 22. Dark hair, darker eyes, a face that seemed designed for kindness. "I don't need pity," I said. "Good. I wasn't offering it." He nodded toward the gathered pack. "What I'm offering is company. No one should grieve alone." Something in my chest cracked. I'd been holding myself together through sheer force of will, and this stranger's simple kindness threatened to shatter me completely. "I don't know you," I whispered. "Thane Thorne, recently transferred from the Northern Pack," he offered his hand. "And you're Cordelia Soren. Your father talked about you at council meetings, said you had ideas about strengthening community bonds. He told you that?" He was proud. Thane's grip was warm, steady. "Said you believed the pack should be more than a hierarchy, that we should be family." Tears burned my eyes. He understood. "Then he raised you right." We stood together as the ceremony concluded, as my father's body was committed to the earth in the old way. Thane didn't speak, didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply stood beside me, a solid presence in a world that had suddenly become untethered. Afterward, when the pack dispersed, he walked me home. "You'll be all right?" he asked at my door. "I don't know." Honest answer. He smiled slightly. "I appreciate that. Everyone else keeps telling me I'll be fine, that time heals, that the pack will take care of me." I wrapped his jacket tighter, like I'm something fragile that needs managing. "Are you fragile?" "No. I didn't think so." He studied me with those dark eyes. "You're angry. That's different." No one had named it before. The fury beneath the grief. The rage at a world where growing old meant growing weak, where my father's value had diminished with his strength. "Yes," I breathed. "I'm angry." "Good," Thane said. "Anger means you're not broken." He came back the next day, and the day after that. Always with an excuse, bringing food from concerned pack members, checking if I needed help with my father's affairs, asking my opinion on a community proposal. But really, I understood. He came to make sure I was eating, sleeping, surviving. "You don't have to keep doing this," I told him after the first week. "I know." "Then why?" He considered the question with the seriousness he brought to everything. "Because you interest me." That's a strange answer. You want a better one? He leaned against the doorframe. "I've watched you at gatherings. You see things others miss. You notice who's isolated, who's struggling. You care about the Omega Wolves the same way you care about the Alphas. That's just basic decency." "It's rare." His voice softened. "And I think you could change things here. Make the pack better. But not if you're drowning in grief alone." Something shifted between us in that moment. A recognition. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Right now? Let me take you to dinner." I'm in mourning. You're also hungry. I can hear your stomach from here. He smiled. One meal, Cordelia? No expectations? Just food and conversation with someone who doesn't think you need to be handled with care. I should have said no. Should have recognized the careful way he was weaving himself into my life, how each kindness created a thread of obligation. Instead, I said yes. Dinner became dinners. Conversations became confessions. Thane listened in a way I'd never experienced. He asked about my ideas for pack reform, creating mentorship programs, establishing support systems for struggling wolves, building community beyond hierarchy. He didn't just nod along. He engaged, challenged, helped me refine my thoughts. You're brilliant, he said one evening, his eyes bright with admiration. I'm idealistic. Same thing. He reached across the table, took my hand. The pack needs this, needs you. They have an alpha who's retiring next month. We'll need to choose a successor. My heart stuttered. You're considering it. I am. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture that would become achingly familiar. But I'd need support. Someone who understands that leadership is service, not dominance. Someone who sees the pack as family. A Luna. A partner. He said it with such intensity. Someone who'd stand beside me, not behind me. Someone who'd challenge me when I'm wrong. Someone who'd help me be better. I pulled my hand back. Thane, I'm not asking yet. He smiled. Just thinking out loud. About what kind of leader I want to be. What kind of life I want to build. But, he was asking, in every gesture, every conversation, every moment of perfectly calibrated vulnerability, he was showing me a future where I mattered, where my ideas could reshape the pack, where I'd be seen and valued and powerful. He was offering me everything I'd ever wanted, and I was falling for it. The courtship was a beautiful thing. Thane brought me books about pack dynamics from other territories. We stayed up late debating philosophy, laughing over terrible jokes, sharing pieces of ourselves that felt precious and private. He introduced me to his vision for the pack, one where strength meant protecting the vulnerable, where hierarchy served community rather than ego. He made me feel brilliant, essential, seen. I love you, he said one night, 3 months after we'd met. We were watching the stars from the hill above the pack grounds. His arm was around my shoulders, and I felt safer than I'd ever felt. You don't have to say it back, he continued. I just needed you to know. But I wanted to say it back, wanted to tumble into this feeling, this certainty that I'd found someone who understood me completely. I love you too, I whispered. His smile could have lit the dark. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed me, gentle and reverent, like I was everything he knew in the world. I'm going to be alpha next week, he said quietly. The council confirmed it today. Thane, that's congratulations. Be my Luna. The words rushed out. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months, but I can't imagine doing this without you. The pack needs your heart. I need your heart. Every rational part of me screamed caution, but rationality had no place against the tide of feeling, the grief he'd helped me survive, the future he'd painted, the way he looked at me like I contained entire universes. Yes, I said. Yes. His joy was incandescent. He spun me around laughing, and for that moment, everything was perfect. We were perfect. The warning signs started small. A comment about my dress. Maybe something less revealing? The elders can be traditional. A suggestion about my schedule. Why don't you skip the Omega gathering this week? You've been looking tired. A gentle redirection when I mentioned visiting friends in the neighboring pack. Not this month, love. With the leadership transition, I need you here. Each instance had reasonable justification. Each instance felt like care, but they accumulated like stones in my pockets, weighing me down so gradually I didn't notice I was drowning. The mating ceremony was beautiful. The pack celebrated for 3 days. Thane's vows made wolves weep. Promises of partnership, devotion, eternal respect for the gift of my trust. I believed every word. On our 4th night as mates, the moon rose full and silver. "I need to tell you something," Thane said as darkness fell. His hands shook. "About my family. About the curse." "What curse?" "My bloodline." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Every thorn male becomes a wolf during the full moon. We can't control it, can't fight it. But you already transform. We all do. This is different." His voice cracked. "The wolf is angry, violent. My father, he hurt my mother. Not often, just during the change. She endured it because she loved him." Ice spread through my veins. "Thane? I thought I could fight it. Thought love would be enough." He looked at me, and the fear in his eyes seemed genuine. "But I can feel it rising. The moon pulls at something dark inside me, and I don't know if I can stop it. Then we'll get help. Find a healer, a curse breaker. There is no cure." He gripped my hands. "Only endurance. Only hope that the wolf won't be as strong as my father's was." "I don't understand what you're asking me." "I'm asking you to lock me away during full moons, to protect yourself." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And if I do hurt you, to forgive me. To remember it's not me. It's the curse." I should have run, should have recognized the careful construction of this moment, the timing, the tragedy, the way he'd waited until after the mating ceremony to reveal this supposed family curse. Instead, I touched his face with trembling hands. "We'll face this together." Relief flooded his features. "You mean that?" "You said partnership. This is what that means." He kissed me desperately, gratefully. "I don't deserve you." "You do," I said, and believed it. That night, I locked him in the reinforced basement he'd prepared in advance, heard him transform with sounds that scraped against my soul, heard him rage against the bars, against the walls, against the silver chains he'd asked me to bind him with. The wolf howled my name, begged to be released, promised he'd be gentle. I sat on the floor above, covering my ears, and told myself I was helping, that this was love, that endurance was strength. When dawn came, Thane emerged with tears on his face and apologies on his lips. "Did I hurt you?" He asked. "No. You stayed contained." "Thank Goddess." He pulled me into his arms. "Thank you for protecting me from myself." That's what I thought I was doing. Protecting him. I didn't realize I was teaching him exactly how much I'd tolerate. Showing him that I'd lock myself away with a monster and call it love. Proving that I'd endure anything rather than admit I'd made a mistake. The cage I built for him became my own, and the key was made of promises I'd believed the night he held me under the stars and told me I was essential. Chapter 4. The first full moon. The basement had been prepared with care. Thane showed it to me 2 days before the full moon, leading me down narrow stairs into a space that smelled of fresh concrete and iron. Silver chains hung from bolted rings in the stone walls. A reinforced door, steel core, silver-lined, stood ready to seal him in. "I had it built before I asked you to be my Luna," he said quietly. "Didn't want you to think I was unprepared." I ran my fingers along the cold metal. "How long have you been doing this?" "Since my first change at 16. 10 years of full moons." His voice carried the weight of old pain. "My father taught me. Showed me how to bind myself, where to place the chains so they'd hold, even when the wolf fought hardest." "Your mother? Did she help him?" "She tried." He stared at the chains with something like reverence. But after a while, she couldn't bear to watch the transformation. So he did it alone. Locked himself away and endured. That's horrible. That's love. Thane turned to me, and his eyes held such naked vulnerability. Protecting the people who matter, even from yourself. Especially from yourself. I wanted to argue. Wanted to say that love shouldn't require imprisonment, that there had to be another way. But the full moon was rising, and Thane's fear was palpable, and I couldn't abandon him to face this alone. Tell me what to do, I said. Relief softened his features. Just stay, upstairs, no matter what you hear. The walls are thick, but sound carries. He'll say things, the wolf. He'll use my voice, my memories, everything he can to make you open the door. I won't. Promise me, Cordelia. His hands gripped my shoulders. The wolf knows how to manipulate. He'll sound like me. Sound hurt, terrified, dying. But it's all lies. If you open that door, I promise. I covered his hands with mine. I won't let him out. That's my Luna. He kissed my forehead. Brave and strong, he said. But I didn't feel brave. I felt like a woman watching her husband prepare for battle against himself, powerless to do anything but bear witness. The first full moon as Luna began with ritual. Thane ate lightly. The wolf is easier to manage on an empty stomach. He bathed in water infused with wolfsbane and silver shavings. It weakens the transformation, makes it slower. He braided silver wire into his hair. Every little bit helps. I watched him prepare with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times. There was something almost meditative about it, the way he moved through each step without hesitation. How much time do we have? I asked as the sun began its descent. He checked the window. An hour? Maybe less? His jaw tightened. I can already feel it. Like something scratching at the inside of my skin, trying to get out. Does it hurt? Not yet. He rolled his shoulders and I heard joints pop. But it will. We descended to the basement together. Thane stripped to his waist. Clothes just get shredded anyway. And positioned himself against the wall. I picked up the first chain with shaking hands. Start with the wrists, he instructed. Pull it tight. Tighter than you think. The wolf will be stronger than I am now. The silver burned my palms, even through the cloth I'd wrapped around them. I wound the chain around his left wrist 3 times, secured it with the heavy padlock he'd provided. Good. His breathing had changed, become shallower. Now the right. I repeated the process. His skin had begun to flush, veins standing out dark against his neck and arms. Ankles next. Kneeling at his feet felt wrong, subservient. But I did it anyway, secured the chains that would keep him immobile. When I stood, he was breathing hard, and sweat had broken out across his chest despite the basement's chill. One more. He nodded toward a final chain, thicker than the others. Around my chest. It keeps me from lunging forward when the transformation completes. My hands trembled as I wrapped it around him. He was so warm, his heart hammering against my palms. Pull, he gasped. All the way, I yanked the chain tight. He grunted in pain and I nearly loosened it. Don't! His eyes found mine. It has to be this way. The padlock clicked shut. Thane hung against the wall like a prisoner, silver cutting into his skin at wrist and ankle and chest. His breathing came in ragged bursts. Go, he whispered. Please, I don't want you to see... Thane, go. The command hit hard. I stumbled backward, and he immediately softened. I'm sorry. I can't hold it much longer, and I need you safe. Please, Cordelia. Upstairs. Lock the door. I fled. Up the narrow stairs, through the heavy door, turning the key with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The lock engaged with a sound like finality. Then I waited. The transformation began with screaming, not howling. Just Thane's voice, raw and agonized, as his body broke itself apart and rebuilt itself into something other. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the sound penetrated anyway. Bone cracking. Flesh tearing. A sound like wet fabric ripping. Then silence. Long, terrible silence. I stood frozen in our kit Hollis, staring at the basement door, counting my own heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the howling started. It raised every hair on my body, activated instincts I didn't know I had. The wolf was awake, and it was furious. The chains rattled. Metal screamed against stone. Something heavy slammed into the walls with enough force to shake the floor beneath my feet. "Cordelia!" My name in Thane's voice. I took a step toward the door before I caught myself. The wolf uses his voice. "It's not him. It's not him. Please!" The voice cracked with desperation. "Something's wrong. The chains are too tight. I can't breathe." I gripped the counter until my knuckles went white. "Cordelia, please! I'm dying!" "Lies. He told you. The wolf lies." But it sounded so real. The panic, the pain, the breathless terror. Every instinct screamed at me to help, to run downstairs and loosen the chains, to save my mate from suffocating. The basement door shook in its frame. "I love you!" The wolf's voice sobbed. "Goddess Cordelia, I love you so much. Please don't let me die like this." My hand was on the doorknob before I realized I'd moved. I snatched it back like I'd been burned. "No," I whispered. A sound like laughter drifted up from below. Low and cruel, and nothing like Thane at all. Smart girl. The wolf's voice had changed, become something else. Still Thane's tone, but twisted. He chose well, pretty and obedient. I should have walked away. Gone to our bedroom, closed the door, buried my head under pillows until dawn. Instead, I found myself frozen at the top of the stairs, listening. "Do you know what he thinks about?" The wolf's voice was conversational now, almost friendly. "When he looks at you? Stop. He thinks about how breakable you are, how easy it would be to... He loves me." "Oh, he does." Something metal scraped against stone. But love and hunger aren't so different, are they? Both want to consume. Both want to possess. The only difference is which one you admit to. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to warn you. The chains rattled. "He's going to hurt you, little Luna. Maybe not tonight, maybe not next month, but eventually the chains will fail, or he'll forget to secure them properly, or he'll decide that you need to understand his pain, really understand it, and then shut up. Such fire." The wolf laughed. "I can see why he wants to break it." I turned away from the door, hands shaking, and made myself walk to our bedroom. Made myself close the door. Made myself climb into bed and pull the covers up like a child hiding from monsters. But I could still hear him. All night I heard him. Howling. Raging. Speaking in Thane's voice about things I didn't want to imagine. Sometimes he begged. Sometimes he threatened. Sometimes he went silent for so long I thought something had gone wrong, and I'd have to go check, and then he'd start again just as I stood up. It was a game. He was playing with me. And somewhere beneath the wolf, Thane was either unconscious or watching it happen, powerless to stop it. I didn't know which was worse. Dawn came slowly. The howling had stopped an hour before sunrise, replaced by ragged breathing and the occasional rattle of chains. I'd been awake all night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around the basement's contained violence. When the first light touched the window, I heard something new. Crying. Quiet, broken, utterly human. I descended the stairs on numb feet, unlocked the door with the key I'd clutched all night. The basement smelled like blood and sweat and animal musk. Thane hung from the chains, human again, naked and shaking. Silver had burned marks into his wrists, his ankles, his chest. Blood trickled from where he'd fought the restraints hard enough to tear skin. His eyes found mine, brown, human, devastated. "Did I hurt you?" he whispered. "No. Did I scare you?" I wanted to lie, wanted to be the strong Luna who'd endured without flinching. Yes, I admitted. Something flickered across his face, too quick to name. I'm sorry. His voice broke. I tried to fight it. All night I tried. But the wolf, he's stronger than I thought. He knows things. Says things I'd never... I know. I approached him slowly, began unlocking the chains. It wasn't you. Are you sure? He searched my face. Because sometimes I can't tell anymore. Where I end and the wolf begins. The chest chain fell away. He sagged forward and I caught him. His skin was fever hot, his heartbeat erratic. Let's get you upstairs, I said. Did he say terrible things? Thane. Did he? There was something desperate in his eyes. Please, I need to know what I'm apologizing for. He tried to manipulate me, to make me open the door. What did he say? I unlocked his wrists, let the chains fall. That you wanted to hurt me. That the curse would fail. God. He pulled me against him and I felt him trembling. I am so sorry. That must have been terrifying. You warned me. But hearing it, he buried his face in my hair. Hearing my voice say those things, it wasn't your voice. Not really. He pulled back enough to look at me. You believe that? I should have hesitated. Should have acknowledged the doubt that had taken root during the long night. But his need was so palpable, his fear so real, and I couldn't bear to add to his pain. I believe you, I said. The relief that flooded his face should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like signing something I hadn't read carefully enough. I love you, he whispered, so much. You're stronger than I deserve. We'll face this together. Together. He kissed me gently, tasting of salt and copper. Thank you for not giving up on me. I helped him up the stairs, bathed the silver burns with careful hands, held him while he slept off the exhaustion of transformation. And I told myself I'd done the right thing. Told myself his gratitude was proof of love. Told myself that endurance was the same as strength. The lie was easier than the alternative, that I'd just shown him exactly how much I'd tolerate in the name of devotion, that I'd set a precedent I'd spend the next 3 years being unable to break, that the first full moon wasn't a test of the wolf's containment, it was a test of mine, and I'd passed with perfect marks. Chapter 5, The Apology Cycle. The second full moon, Thane forgot to lock the basement door. He insisted it was an accident. The transformation had come faster than expected, he said. The wolf had been clawing at him all day, making it hard to think, to remember the ritual steps we'd established. I'm so sorry, he told me the morning after, his face pale with what looked like genuine horror. I could have hurt you. If you hadn't been alert, if you hadn't noticed, but I did notice. I touched the bruise on my shoulder where I'd slammed against the doorframe in my rush to get the door closed. And you didn't hurt me. This time. His hands shook as he reached for me, then pulled back. God, Cordelia, what if next time I'm faster? What if the wolf gets out before you can... Then we'll be more careful. How can you be so calm? There were tears in his eyes. Real ones. I almost killed you. You didn't. But I wanted to. The words came out choked. That's what terrifies me. When I'm the wolf, when I remember being him, there's this hunger, this need to chase you, to catch you, to... He broke off, turning away. You should leave me. My heart clenched. Thane, I mean it. You deserve better than this. Better than a mate who's a danger to you once a month. His shoulders hunched. I release you from our bond. You can go to the council, tell them the curse is too dangerous, find someone who can actually protect you instead of... Stop! I crossed to him, turned him to face me. I'm not leaving. You should. Well, I'm not. I gripped his face in my hands. We made vows. In front of the pack. In front of the moon herself. For better or worse, remember? This is worse. Then we endure it. I kissed him softly. Together. like we promised. He stared at me like I was something holy. I don't deserve you. You do. And I believed it. Believed that his remorse was proof of goodness, that his fear meant he was fighting the curse, that my forgiveness made me strong rather than complicit. I'll do better, he whispered against my hair. I swear. I'll prepare earlier, double-check everything, set up fail-safes. This won't happen again. I know. And if it does, if I ever hurt you, you won't. But the doubt had been planted. A seed of fear that would grow with each passing moon. The third full moon, he hurt me. Not badly. Just a scratch across my forearm when I'd gotten too close to the basement door, trying to slide his evening meal through the gap. His claws had shot through the opening faster than I'd thought possible, and only my reflexive jerk backward had saved me from something worse. The wound was shallow. 3 parallel lines, barely bleeding. Thane wept when he saw it the next morning. I'm a monster, he said, refusing to touch me. Look what I did to you. It was an accident. There are no accidents with the wolf. He stared at my bandaged arm with hollow eyes. He wanted to hurt you, and I let him. You were locked up. You couldn't have prevented. I should have warned you not to get close, his voice cracked. Should have told you to slide the food and run. Should have. He pressed his palms against his eyes. God, I'm exactly like my father. You're nothing like your father. Aren't I? He lowered his hands, and the anguish in his face looked bottomless. He hurt my mother. Started small, scratches, bruises. She forgave him every time. Told herself it was the curse, not him. And it got worse. Slowly. So slowly she didn't notice until... He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Thane. I took his hand, placed it on my cheek. Look at me. You are not your father. You're fighting this. You're trying. Trying isn't enough if you end up hurt. Then we'll be more careful. I kissed his palm. I'll stay farther back. We'll use a longer pole to slide the food. We'll adapt. You shouldn't have to adapt to being safe in your own home. Maybe not, but this is the reality we're living in. I held his gaze, and I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing you. Curse and all. The gratitude in his eyes was overwhelming. He pulled me into his arms, careful of my injury, and held me like I was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. I love you, he breathed. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. I'll make this up to you, I swear. I'll be better, do better, be the mate you deserve. And for the next month, he was. He brought me breakfast in bed, took over my chores without being asked, spent hours planning improvements to the basement's security, praised me in front of the pack, told everyone how patient I was, how understanding, how strong. The scratch healed to a thin white scar. Thane treated it like a brand of shame. By the 6th full moon, a pattern had emerged. Something would go wrong. A chain would slip, a door would stick, the transformation would come early or late, or with unexpected violence. And I would be hurt. Never badly. Always in ways that could be explained, minimized, forgiven. And Thane would apologize. God, how he would apologize. With tears and self-recrimination, and promises to do better. With gifts and gestures and public displays of devotion. With confessions of unworthiness that required me to reassure him, to prove my love by forgiving the unforgivable. I don't know what I'd do without you, he said after the 6th moon, when I'd ended up with a black eye from slipping on the stairs during the chaos of his transformation. The pack had noticed. Of course they'd noticed. Azalea Cassian had pulled me aside at the market, concern etched into her weathered face. That's quite a bruise, dear. I'm so clumsy, I'd said, practicing the lie Thane and I had crafted together. Tripped in the dark. During the full moon? I was bringing Thane water. He gets so thirsty after the transformation. I'd smiled, hoping it looked genuine. I should have turned the lights on. Perhaps you should stay upstairs during his changes, Azalea suggested gently, for safety. Perhaps, but we both knew I wouldn't. Aluna's duty was to care for her alpha, even, especially, during his weakest moments. Azalea had patted my hand with something that looked like pity. Now, in the privacy of our home, Thane touched the bruise with trembling fingers. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have warned you about the stairs. Should have installed better lighting. Should have... It's fine." "It's not fine." He pulled back and I saw the familiar script playing out across his face. Self-loathing. Shame. The building pressure of emotion that would require my forgiveness to release. "You deserve better than this. I have exactly what I want. A mate who hurts you? A mate who's trying." I took his hand. "Thane, the curse isn't your fault. You didn't ask for this. But I keep failing to control it. Then we'll keep trying new approaches." I kept my voice steady, reasonable. "Maybe we need thicker chains, or a different configuration. Or maybe you should leave me." There it was. The threat hidden inside the apology. The implication that if I didn't forgive, didn't stay, didn't keep trying, I was the one failing our bond. "I'm not leaving," I said, as I always did. Relief flooded his face. "You mean that?" "I made a promise. I keep my promises." He kissed me then, desperate and grateful, and I kissed him back because that's what this dance required. His guilt, my forgiveness, his failure, my endurance, his apology, my absolution. The cycle had become routine. After the 9th full moon, the apologies changed. I'd been careless, he said. Had startled him during the transformation by dropping something upstairs. The noise had triggered the wolf's hunting instinct, made him more aggressive. "If you'd been quieter," Thane said gently, looking at the claw marks on my ribs. "He might not have fought the chains so hard. I dropped a book. I didn't think—" "I know you didn't." He kissed my forehead. "You were trying to read, to distract yourself. I understand. But during the full moon, we have to be more careful. Both of us. Both of us." The shift was subtle. The apology still came, but now it carried a shadow of blame. A suggestion that I bore some responsibility for what happened in the basement. That my actions, or inactions, influenced the wolf's behavior. "You're right," I heard myself say. "I should have been more careful. We both should have." He held me close. "This is a partnership, remember? We're learning together how to manage the curse." Learning. As if my increasing collection of scars was education rather than evidence. "Next time, I'll stay completely silent," I promised. "That's my girl." His approval felt like sunlight. "See? This is why we work. You understand that we're a team. A team, where one member transformed into a monster once a month, and the other bore the wounds and called it collaboration." By the 1st-year anniversary of our mating, I'd learned the full choreography of the apology cycle. Phase 1, the incident. Something would go wrong during the full moon. I would be hurt. Phase 2, the discovery. Morning would come, and Thane would see what the wolf had done. Phase 3, the devastation. He would weep, rage against himself, threaten to leave for my own good. Phase 4, the reassurance. I would comfort him, forgive him, promise to stay. Phase 5, the analysis. We would discuss what went wrong, how to prevent it next time. Slowly, imperceptibly, some responsibility would shift to my actions. Phase 6, the redemption. Thane would spend the next month being perfect, attentive, loving, the alpha everyone admired. The man I'd fallen in love with. Phase 7, repeat. The cycle was predictable as the moon herself, and I'd become fluent. In its language, "I'm sorry" meant, "Please don't leave me." I don't deserve you meant prove that I do. We'll do better meant you'll do better. I love you meant you belong to me, but I didn't see it that way. Not yet. I saw a man fighting a curse, saw a mate who needed my strength, saw a partnership where love meant endurance, and endurance proved love. I saw what I needed to see to survive the choice I'd made. After the 12th full moon, 1 year of transformations, Thane brought me flowers. White roses, my favorite. For being patient with me, he said, arranging them in a vase on our Kit Hollis table. For not giving up when anyone else would have run. I touched a soft petal. I would never run. I know. He smiled, and it was the smile that had made me fall in love with him. Warm, open, real. That's what makes you so extraordinary. The pack sees it too. They tell me constantly how lucky I am. They say the same to me. Do they? He tilted his head. That we're lucky to have each other? That I'm lucky to have you. Something flickered in his eyes, too quick to catch. Well, they're not wrong, are they? Not every alpha would be patient with a Luna who keeps getting hurt. The words hung in the air between us. What do you mean? I asked slowly. Just that some wolves might question why their mate keeps ending up injured. Might wonder if she was being careless, provoking the wolf somehow. He said it lightly, almost thoughtfully. But I know you're not. I know you're trying your best. My stomach turned to ice. Thane. I'm just saying the pack has been kind. Not everyone would understand. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. They could ask questions. Wonder if you're fit to be Luna if you can't manage to stay safe during a predictable monthly event. Are you threatening me? What? No. He looked genuinely shocked. God, Cordelia, I'm trying to protect you. If the pack started doubting your capability, started suggesting you should step down for your own safety, I couldn't stand that. You've worked so hard to earn their respect. I've been hurt because of the curse. I know that. You know that. But wolves talk, and appearances matter. He cupped my face gently. I'm on your side, always. I'm just saying we need to be more careful, for both our sakes. I pulled away from his touch. I don't understand what you're asking me to do. Nothing. Just maybe be more careful about what injuries you show in public. The pack doesn't need to know every detail of our struggles. His voice softened. It's our private burden, our private strength. Sharing it with everyone just invites judgment we don't need. You want me to hide it. I want to protect you from gossip. He took my hands. Please, love, trust me. I know how the pack thinks. They respect strength, not vulnerability. And you are strong. So strong. Let's just keep some things between us. It sounded reasonable. Sounded like care. It felt like a cage door closing. Okay, I whispered. Okay? I'll be more careful about what I show. The relief on his face was immediate, genuine. Thank you. This is why we work, why we're good together. We understand each other. He pulled me into his arms, and I let him hold me while the white roses bloomed on the table, beautiful and fragile and already beginning to die. I love you, he murmured into my hair. I love you too. And I did. Still, despite everything. Because the apology cycle had taught me that love meant forgiveness. That strength meant endurance. That partnership meant bearing pain alone and calling it privacy. The cycle had taught me perfectly. And I was a dedicated student. Chapter 6. The Town's Mercy. The pack meeting happened on a cold autumn evening, 18 months into our mating. Thane had called it to address concerns about territorial boundaries, a routine matter that should have taken an hour. But when we arrived at the communal hall, I felt the weight of eyes on me in a way I hadn't before. Subtle. Assessing. Calculating. Azalea Cassian watched me remove my coat with an expression I couldn't read. Young Veda Hollis whispered something to her mother that made them both glance my way. Even the Omega wolves, who usually avoided direct eye contact with their Luna, studied me with something that looked like pity. I'd been careful. Worn long sleeves to hide the finger-shaped bruises on my upper arms from where Thane had grabbed me. Human, not wolf, during an argument about my spending too much time with the Omega community programs. High collar to conceal the scratch marks from last month's transformation. But bruises had a way of showing through fabric if you knew to look, and the pack was looking. Thane took his place at the front of the hall, commanding and composed. "Thank you all for coming. I know it's short notice, but the eastern border issue needs resolution before winter." "Alpha," Jacob Riverside stood, his bulk imposing even, among wolves. "Before we begin, I think we need to address another concern." Thane's expression remained neutral. "Of course, Jacob. What's on your mind?" "You're Luna." Jacob's eyes found mine. "We're worried about her." The hall went silent. I felt Thane's attention shift to me, felt the careful blankness he projected, even as I sensed calculation beneath it. "Worried?" Thane asked mildly. "In what way?" "She's hurt." This from Azalea, her voice gentle but firm. "Regularly, we've all noticed." "My mate is somewhat accident-prone," Thane said with a self-deprecating smile. "She'd be the first to admit it. Aren't you, love?" Every eye turned to me. I opened my mouth, closed it. The truth sat on my tongue like poison. He hurts me. Every full moon. Sometimes between. I'm terrified and exhausted, and I don't know how to leave. "I'm clumsy," I heard myself say instead. "Clumsy?" Jacob's tone suggested he didn't believe it. "Luna, you're a wolf. We don't trip over our own feet. We have reflexes that... The curse makes things difficult," I interrupted and hated how defensive I sounded. "During the full moons, the house isn't always safe." "Then perhaps you should stay elsewhere during his transformations," Azalea suggested. "With family, or..." "I have no family." The words came out sharper than intended. "And my place is with my mate." "Even when it puts you in danger?" "The danger is minimal." I straightened my spine, channeled every bit of Luna authority I could muster. "Thane takes precautions. The basement is secure. Any injuries I've sustained are from my own carelessness, not from any failure on his part." I felt Thane's approval, like a physical warmth. "With respect, Luna," Veda Hollis spoke up, her young voice trembling slightly. "Some of us have noticed patterns. Injuries that coincide with the full moon. And we've heard..." She hesitated, glanced at her mother. "Heard what?" I asked. "Sounds from your home." Veda's mother, Diana, stepped forward. "Our house is close to yours. During the transformations, we hear things, sounds that suggest violence." My heart hammered. The wolf rages against his confinement. Of course there are sounds. "And screaming," Diana continued quietly. "You're screaming, Luna." The hall seemed to contract around me. Thane stood. "My mate has been understandably frightened during some transformations. The curse can be intense, but she's never been in real danger. I would die before I let the wolf actually harm her." "But she has been harmed," Jacob insisted. "We've all seen it. Minor injuries," Thane said smoothly. "From her own actions during moments of panic. I've tried to convince her to stay farther away, to let me endure the curse alone, but she insists on staying close. Because she loves me. Because she's loyal in a way that humbles me daily." He looked at me, and the love in his eyes was so convincing, I almost believed it myself. "Isn't that right, Cordelia?" The choice crystallized in that moment. I could tell the truth. Could expose him in front of the pack he led, the wolves who respected him, the community that had elevated us both. I could shatter the illusion and face the consequences. Disbelief, investigation, the dissolution of everything we'd built. The pack questioning their beloved Alpha because his Luna accused him of the unthinkable. Or I could lie. Could protect him one more time. Could prove my loyalty and keep the peace and maintain the facade that was killing me slowly. "That's right," I whispered, Relief rippled through the hall. Tension dissolved. The pack wanted to believe their alpha was good, that their Luna was safe, that the violence they'd sensed was imaginary or exaggerated. I'd given them permission to stop worrying. I insist on staying with him during the transformations, I said, louder now. It's my choice, my risk to take, and I'd appreciate if the pack would respect that choice rather than questioning my judgment. Azalea's face fell. Luna, we're not questioning your judgment. We're concerned for your welfare. Your concern is noted. I kept my voice steady, professional, but unnecessary. My maid and I are managing the curse together, as partners, as we vowed to do. Cordelia, Veda started. Luna, I corrected gently but firmly. In official pack settings, it's Luna. The reminder of hierarchy was intentional. A wall erected between myself and the women who might have been allies, who might have helped me find a way out. Veda flinched. Of course. I apologize, Luna. Thane moved to my side, placed a hand on the small of my back. The touch looked supportive, felt possessive. I appreciate the pack's vigilance, he said. Truly, it speaks to the strength of our community that you watch out for each other. But I assure you, my mate is safe. I would rather die than harm her. We believe you, Alpha, Jacob said, though his eyes still held doubt. We just want to make sure Luna knows she has options, that if circumstances change, if she ever needs help. She knows, Thane said. Don't you, love? I know, I confirmed. Then we'll say no more about it. Azalea's voice carried finality. But Luna, please, if you ever need anything, a place to stay, someone to talk to, my door is always open. Thank you, I said, and meant it, even knowing I'd never walk through that door. The meeting continued. Territorial boundaries were discussed and resolved. Pack business proceeded as normal. But I felt the shift, the careful way people avoided looking at me directly, the conversations that stopped when I approached, the new distance between myself and the pack. They'd tried to help. I'd refused. Now they would respect my choice and stop asking questions that made everyone uncomfortable. Walking home after the meeting, Thane was quiet. We'd gone half a mile before he spoke. You did well tonight. Did I? Standing up for us, for our privacy. His hand found mine. I know it wasn't easy. They think I'm lying. They think you're loyal. He squeezed my fingers. Which you are. And they respect that, even if they don't fully understand. Veda looked at me like I was broken. Veda is young. She doesn't understand that strength looks different for every wolf. He stopped walking, turned me to face him. You showed incredible strength tonight, refusing to let them interfere in our bond, trusting me over their suspicions. I do trust you. I know. He kissed my forehead. That's why this works. Why we work. Because you see past the curse to who I really am. I wanted to ask who he really was. Wanted to know if the man who held me gently under starlight was more real than the one who grabbed my arms hard enough to bruise when I disagreed with him. Wanted to understand which version of Thane was the truth and which was the mask. But asking would suggest doubt. And doubt would hurt him. And hurting him would make me the cruel one. I love you, I said instead. I love you, too. He resumed walking, keeping me close. We should probably be more careful, though, about appearances. If the pack is noticing injuries, we need to hide them better. I've been trying. I know you have. You've been wonderful. His voice took on a thoughtful quality. But maybe we should avoid pack gatherings right after full moons. Give you time to heal properly before you're seen in public. That seems like hiding. It's strategic. He said it reasonably, like we were discussing tactics rather than my isolation. The less the pack sees, the less they worry. The less they worry, the less they interfere. And interference helps no one. What about my community programs? The Omega support groups? Those can continue, just maybe schedule them mid-month, when you're not healing from anything. When I wasn't marked by his violence, when I could pretend to be whole. That limits my involvement considerably, I said carefully. Temporarily. He squeezed my hand. Just until the pack settles down. Once they stop watching you so closely, you can resume your full schedule. This is about protecting you, Cordelia. Protecting us both from gossip that could undermine my leadership. There it was, the real concern. Not my safety, but his reputation. If wolves start questioning whether I can control the curse, he continued, they might question my fitness to lead. And that doesn't just affect me, it affects you too. Everything we've built together. The threat was wrapped in care, coded in partnership. But underneath, the message was clear. My silence protected us both. My compliance maintained order. My acceptance of violence was a service to the pack. I understand, I said. That's my girl. He pulled me close as we reached our home. We're a team, remember? It's us against the curse, us against the doubters, us against anything that tries to tear us apart. Us against the world. Except the world wasn't the enemy. He was, but I couldn't see it yet. Wouldn't see it for another 1.5 years. Because the pack's intervention had done the opposite of what they'd intended. They'd shown me that speaking up changed nothing. That even when wolves noticed, even when they offered help, I'd choose him anyway. Choose the familiar pain over the unknown consequences of leaving. They'd shown me I was alone. And Thane had learned he could hurt me publicly, as long as I agreed to lie about it. The pack's mercy had sealed my cage. Inside our home, Thane made tea while I sat at the Kit Hollis table, exhausted. I'm proud of you, he said, setting the cup before me. Tonight could have gone very differently. Could it? If you'd sided with them, told them what they wanted to hear. He sat across from me. They were practically begging you to confirm their suspicions. Maybe their suspicions were right. The words escaped before I could stop them. Silence fell, heavy and dangerous. Thane's expression didn't change. What does that mean? Nothing. I'm just tired. Cordelia. He reached across the table, took my hand. His grip was just tight enough to hurt. Are you saying you think I'm abusing you? No, because if you believed that, you would have told them. Wouldn't you? His thumb pressed against the bruise on my wrist, the one he'd made 3 days ago. Unless you're lying to them, or lying to yourself. I'm not lying to anyone. Then what are you saying? I pulled my hand back. I'm saying I'm hurt and scared, and I don't know how much longer I can do this. Do what? Endure a curse I didn't ask for? Stand by a mate who's trying his best? His voice remained calm, but something cold entered his eyes. Or are you saying you want to leave me? I don't know. You don't know. He repeated it slowly. After everything I've done for you, everything we've built together, after I made you Luna, gave you power and purpose, loved you through your doubts and weaknesses, you don't know if you want to stay. That's not fair. What's not fair is you threatening to abandon me when I need you most. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against wood. The pack was right about one thing. You are breaking. But not from the curse, Cordelia. From your own lack of commitment to our bond. That's not true, isn't it? He laughed, bitter. I fight this curse every day, every single day. And all I ask is for you to stand beside me, to help me carry this burden. But apparently, that's too much. Guilt crashed over me. Thane, I'm sorry. Are you? Because it sounds like you're giving up on me. He moved toward the door. Maybe you should go stay with Azalea, since you trust her judgment more than mine. I don't... Then what, Cordelia? He turned back, and the pain in his face looked utterly genuine. Tell me what you want. Because I can't keep fighting for us if you're not fighting too. I stood on shaking legs. I want to stay. Do you? Yes. The word felt like surrender. Yes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have doubted. I'm just exhausted. We're both exhausted. He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. This curse is exhausting. The pack's interference is exhausting. But we can't let it break us. We're stronger than this. I know. Say you'll stay. Say you won't give up on us. I won't give up. I pressed my face against his chest. I promise. That's better. He stroked my hair. We just need to get through this rough patch. Once the pack stops watching so closely, once we refine our strategies for managing the transformations, everything will be easier. I nodded against him, too tired to argue. I love you, he murmured. Even when you doubt, even when you're weak, I love you. I love you too. And as he held me in our kit hollis, the pack's unanswered questions hanging in the air outside, I understood something terrible. The intervention had failed. Not because the pack hadn't cared enough, but because I'd cared too much about the wrong things. I'd cared about Thane's pain more than my own. About his reputation more than my safety. About preserving the bond more than preserving myself. The pack had offered me a door. I'd chosen to stay in the cage. And Thane had learned he could hurt me in front of witnesses as long as I agreed to call it something else. The town's mercy had been real. But mercy only works if the person being saved wants to be rescued. And I'd told them clearly and firmly that I didn't. So they would stop asking, and the violence would continue, and I would have no one to blame but myself. To be continued in part 2.